Mike Clevinger just tossed the second complete game of his career. Let's discuss on Fantasy Baseball today in 5. Welcome into FBT in 5 on Tuesday, September 19th. I am Frank Sample, joined by Scott White. And let's talk about some of these pitchers that we started in the 2-start week. We'll begin things with Mike Clevinger, who turned in the second complete game of his career, the first since April 21st of 2018. He allowed 6 hits, 1 run, 7 strikeouts to 0 walks, and he's at the Red Sox this weekend, and he's home against the Padres. Scott, what'd you see here from Mike Clevinger?
I mean, it was another great start. 4th and 5, that wasn't just good, but great. If you look at the game log for Clevinger, so the first of those starts, 1 hit, 10 strikeouts in 7 innings. Then he had 7 shutout innings, only 3 hits allowed. Then he had 2 earned runs, 7 strikeouts in 6 innings. And then this complete game effort, 4 great starts in 5. Now, the other one was an 8-run, 12-hit disaster. So we can't just gloss over that. But, I mean, in the 4 starts that were great, 16% swinging strike rate. It's not like he just got lucky and prevented, just by happenstance, runners were prevented from scoring, which, we've seen for stretches from other pitchers who we don't think of as particularly good. Clevinger seems to have pitched well apart from that one blip at Detroit. So, if it's a daily lineup league at Boston, kind of depends what you need, I guess, whether or not you start him. But I think it's at least in the discussion in a way that I would have been skeptical of prior to this start.
2 other pitchers that pitched well on Monday. Bryan Woo turned in another solid start at the Oakland A's. 5 shutout innings with 6 strikeouts there. Edward Cabrera was also solid against the Mets. 5 1/3 innings, 1 run allowed, only 1 walk. That's key for Edward Cabrera. 4 strikeouts in that one. Cabrera is home against the Brewers this weekend and then at the Pirates in the final week. Bryan Woo is at the Rangers this weekend and then home against the Rangers in the final week. Don't like that as much, Scotty.
Yeah, no, you like Edward Cabrera's matchups a lot more than Woo's, and I think Cabrera is more usable as a result. More downside, probably because of the control issues that come and go for him. At his previous start, he had 6 walks, or his previous outing, I should say, was following an opener. 6 walks, only 1 hit allowed, so he got away with it. But big strikeout potential for Edward Cabrera and great matchup, so I prefer him to Bryan Woo going forward. But Woo had a fine rookie showing here, and in an unconventional way, because he basically just throws fastballs, 3 variations of fastball, 4-seamer, a 2-seamer. He threw those 2 a combined 80% of the time in this start at Oakland. He has a cutter that he also uses. You mentioned this on the full-length podcast, Frank. It's a similar approach to the one we've seen Lance Lynn use over the years. And, I know it's been a disappointing year for Lance Lynn, so maybe doesn't seem like a flattering comparison for Bryan Woo, but Lance Lynn's had a very successful career. So I think Woo would certainly take Lynn's career if he can continue to thrive with this approach.
Any utility for these 3 pitchers over the final couple weeks of the season? John Means actually had a solid start, and he's at the Guardians this weekend. He's home against the Red Sox in the final week. Crawford is home against the White Sox this weekend. He's at the Orioles in the final week. And then Quantrill had another solid start here. He's home against the Orioles this weekend and then at the Tigers in the final week of the season. Anything on those 3?
I understand the temptation with that Tigers matchup next week for Quantrill, but he's just so combustible, doesn't miss many bats. And, I know John Means' next matchup at Cleveland looks good, but he has 1 strikeout in 5 innings, each of his 2 starts back from Tommy John surgery. And I just don't think I can put my faith in that. I could see it going wrong given that he's not missing bats the way we're used to seeing John Means do that.
All right, 2 final pitchers here. Connor Phillips, the pitching prospect with the Reds, picked up the first win and quality start of his career. And he is home against the Pirates this weekend. He's at the Cardinals in the final week. And Jose Budo with the Mets has 3 strong starts in a row. He's at the Phillies this weekend, home against the Phillies in the final week. Maybe more so for deeper league, Scott, but anything on Connor Phillips and Jose Budo?
Phillips has potential. I mean, he had a ton of strikeouts in the minors this year. He throws hard. had just one swinging strike in his previous start and has some significant control issues. So I think as good as he looked here on Monday, it's too much of an isolated event to trust in Connor Phillips in fantasy. Jose Budo, 3 good starts in a row, but this was a non-prospect being called up despite having a 5.93 ERA, 163 WHIP, and 8.1 K per 9 at AAA. I don't know how it's gone well for Jose Budo, but I don't see a path for it continuing. And the matchups, the 2 starts against the Phillies to close out the season aren't so favorable for Budo either.
Lastly, I'll just wrap up here with some, I guess we could call this bad news. It's really surprising news, is I guess what we should say. Manny Machado likely will require surgery on his ailing right elbow and could undergo the procedure even before the season comes to a close. Apparently, he's been playing through something called tennis elbow, and sounds like he's going to need 6 to 7 months to recover from surgery. And he's actually been dealing with this kind of off and on dating back to May of last year. So it's interesting timing. And we'll see what happens here in the offseason and surgery with Manny Machado.
It might kind of explain his underwhelming performance this year. He hasn't been terrible, but he hasn't been up to Manny Machado's usual standards.
Yeah, that's certainly true. For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the Audacy app, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5, and we'll be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.